Hello and good morning. Today we are going to do a little bit of digitizing. I am going to show you how to create some freestanding lace ornaments that are really simple. Even if your digitizing skills are more on the basic beginner side. The only caveat here is that the techniques I'm showing are only available in StitchArtist level 3, and I'll explain them as we get to them. Okay, so let's get started. I have Embrilliance fired up. I need to create a new document or a new page. All right, I have a huge hoop set up here, so just ignore that. I don't know why I do it. I like a big workspace. My first step is going to be to import the SVG file that I'm using to base my freestanding lace design on. Now, of course, I don't need to do this. I could draw my own shape, but having an SVG file as my basis makes it really quick and easy. So I'm going to head over to Create Mode, and these buttons, the vector button specifically, is what I'm going to use, and this is a StitchArtist level 3 feature. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to navigate to my SVG file and open it. And now I just have an outline of my little angel. You may be wondering, where do you get these SVG files? Well, there's tons of SVG file sellers on the internet out there. Just Google it. Etsy has a bunch of them. If you know how to make SVG files yourself, which is not actually rocket science, you can make them yourself. I am a big fan of Inkscape, which is a free vector-based drawing program. It runs on a Mac or a PC. I'll put the link below. I actually have a whole course on Inkscape because it's so amazing. Anyway, you can get SVG files, paid, unpaid, create them yourself in a bunch of different ways. And you make them in a vector-based drawing program. So let's just take a look at this little angel. When I click on it, I'm going to see all of the control points that are used to define the shapes. And this is actually a really clean one. Sometimes you can import SVG files and they have like tons of extra control points in there, and you don't want that complexity in your embroidery design, that extra unnecessary complexity. So you can take steps to remove some of those extra control points you don't need. But that's a topic for another video. So we like our little angel. Let's first resize it to be an appropriate size for an ornament. And I'm thinking like, I don't know, I have to look at a ruler, but I'm thinking about, let's say 3.5 inches, and then you could print this out, stitch this out in a tiny 4x4 inch embroidery hoop. So I'm gonna exit create mode because this is the fastest way I know how to resize my design. Now I have my little lock button on, so if I just type in here 3.25 and hit return, it's going to scale it proportionally. Okay, wonderful. So it's 3.25 inch wide and 3 3/8 inch high, which is great. If you are a millimeters kind of digitizer, then just switch to millimeters and you can size it that way. But inches make a little bit more sense to me. I'm going to head back into create mode. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the freestanding lace fill. Super simple. And I was playing with this a little bit before, playing with the density here, and I just kind of settled on this density. I don't know if it's the default density, but you can see as I drag this up, you're going to get a much bigger density. But I want to make sure that it kind of holds together. So I'm going to change it to 2 millimeters and my stitch length about 2.5. That is fine with me. We can say, oh, I want to do, instead of this, I want to do more of a diamond shape. Oh, I kind of like that. I'm going to keep that. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to change the color. Like this black, this is not the angel of darkness. This is a Christmas angel. So let's change the color to white. How about that? Okay. Now I am going to duplicate this shape. So I can just select it, hit Command C, Command V, copy, paste. Change, so I have two versions of the same thing on top of each other right now. I'll select that second copy and I'm going to just give it a stroke. And again, I messed with these settings. The stroke weight is 1 millimeter. That's pretty fine. I kind of like it. You might want to go a little bit thicker, but we can see how this works once we stitch it out. So that's 2 millimeters. That's good. Now, if this is going to be ornament, I need a way to hang it on my tree. So let's create a little loop. And we can do that using our circle tool right here, circle drawing tool. And I'm just going to take that and click and, whoops, take it, click and drag. And I'm holding down shift so it'll do a perfect circle. Okay. And then I'll apply a stroke to that, not a stroke, a satin border. And I might want to make it a little bit thinner than the angel itself because I want to kind of de-emphasize it. Now I can line it up by site, or I can just Command A to select all and then go to my utility and say align and distribute. And then just let's align these suckers horizontally. Beautiful. Close. And now, of course, I need to drag this down so that it's touching my angel. Okay. And I kind of want to hide that. I don't really want it to be on top of it. So let's move it to the top in the stitch order. Now, if I wanted to kind of change the color a little bit, I could say, okay, well, let's make the satin border pink. Just because it's lace, it doesn't need to be all white, right? Well, that's kind of cute. And then if I wanted to personalize these, I can add some text here. And I like a font that I made, which you can grab off of my site, which is called Jasmine, like the Princess Jasmine. And let's say we're making this for, let's say, how about Sarah? Okay, and it's a little bit spaced out, more spaced out than what I want, and it's a little bit too big. So let's make it about 90% of its current size. Okay, maybe 80%, that's a little bit. Okay, and then let's change the spacing to bring those letters in a little bit. Nice. And still, it's a little bit too tall there. Let's bring it down to about 70%. And that, my friends, I am happy with. Okay, so the stitch order is good. Maybe I should do the lace and then the little ring. I don't know if it's really going to matter that much. And then we'll just preview how it's going to stitch out here. So we have all of our white stitching. Nice. And then we have our pink stitching. And then we're going to have our name. Great. Okay, so let's bring this over to the embroidery machine and start stitching it out. See how it turns out. All right, so I have the design that I created loaded up on my machine, and I'm about to stitch it out. As you can see, I have a piece of water-soluble stabilizer hooped very tightly, and that's all I need. I'm ready to go. So let's start stitching. Now here is the lace part. The next step is to do the outline in pink. Okay, so the pink is done. Now let's stitch out the name. Okay, our stitching's all done. We're gonna cut the angel away from the excess water-soluble stabilizer and then get it wet. Okay, you can see I've cut away the excess water-soluble stabilizer. So now I'm just gonna get it wet and it will melt away. All right, there we go. Now we're just gonna let it dry and it'll get really stiff and it'll be ready to hang on your tree.